of the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board. And at this time, I'd like to ask that the roll be called.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sissy Rogers, Brian Dover, Peter Cook,
Here.
Michael Horvath,
Here.
Corey Hackney, Steve Newman,
Present.
Tara McCracken,
Present.
Krista Flores, Sam Hutchins, Daniel Hine, Dr. Abe Palace,
Present.
Beth McCann, Tony Carter, Graham Fields,
Present.
Dr. Will Hoffman, Jonathan Sukes,
Present.
Christopher McGlashan, Rick Sluter, Trudy Logan, Eric Watts, Robin Paulison,
Present.
Dr. Laura Leatherwood,
This is Scott Queen for Dr. Leatherwood, Nathan.
Dr. John Gossett, Ross Young, Lisa Chapman Deal, Tony Reed, Samantha Cole, Rodney Embler,
Present.
Dr. Brian Weaver. Mr. Chairman, I don't think we quite have a quorum yet.
Nathan, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much.
I just joined. Sissy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sissy. So I think if you'd like to start the first presentation, and then maybe we can come back to the consent agenda items and we'll confirm when we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Nathan. Let's start off with the labor market and economy update. And we're honored to have Jeff DeBellis, the Director of Economic and Policy Analysis with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Labor, and Economic Analysis Division, joining us today. He's going to provide the board with an update about our region's labor market and economy. Jeff and the lead team have been very supportive of our board. We want to thank them for everything they do to support us. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Nathan, for the invite. Always a pleasure to talk to you all about what's going on in our labor market and economy. And I will promise to keep this as local as possible. To start out, I chose the title, "This Will Be Our Year." It's a little bit cross your fingers hopeful. It also is a song by a band called The Zombies, if you're a fan of 1960s rock and roll, which again makes me feel like we've been here before. This will be our year. I feel like we've been saying that for a couple of years now. It's also a little ironic that this hopeful song, "This Will Be Our Year," was on the band's album after they broke up. So obviously it wasn't quite their year as a band when they created it. But hopefully this will be North Carolina's year and the mountain area, Asheville region. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeff DeBellis. I am the Director of Economic and Policy Analysis with the Labor and Economic Analysis Division. We are the federal state partner for labor market statistics with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we produce all the numbers that you see, the economic data, a lot of the unemployment rate, the jobs numbers, the occupational wage information. We also provide tools and resources and presentations like this to help people understand that. We have NC Careers that hopefully everybody on this call is aware of, and hopefully many of you are using to help communicate occupational data and trends. And we are here to really support you in the work that you do and others to help you make better and more informed economic decisions. So jumping right into things, how is the economy? The latest data that we have available at the state and national and local level is through January of 2022. February's data for the state will be out later this week, and to follow will be the local numbers. Unemployment rate locally is about where it was pre-pandemic, 3.1%, a strong comeback from where we were a year ago. The challenge has been that labor force has declined to some extent. The number of unemployed individuals is about where we were 2 years ago, which if you're in a career center or helping those seeking employment, it might be a little bit more relaxed right now than it was certainly last year. Doesn't mean that the job's any easier. It just means that the volume of traffic has probably slowed in your centers. We have about 6,000 people across the workforce development area who are just not accounted for in the labor market, in the labor force. So they are not employed, they're not unemployed, they are missing for various reasons. And we can talk about this later if you want. There's still a little bit unsure of some of that, but the majority of the reason is really just demographics. People are getting older, aging out of the workforce. We don't have quite the same number of young people to take their place, and we don't have some of the immigration that we've had in previous decades. This has contributed to the lowest number of mountain area job seekers in nearly 15 years. When we look at job seekers, we mostly kind of intuitively know not all job seekers are the unemployed. A lot of people transition from job to job, voluntarily and involuntarily. And we have a low number of people who are actively looking for jobs at the moment in the region. That is comes at the same time when there's a record number of job openings. Now, this trend is not unique to the mountain area. It's not unique to North Carolina. This is an issue that's impacting, frankly, the entire nation, dealing with a drop in the labor force and a real growth in demand and openings as the economy has hopefully turned the corner and is certainly growing, and people have pent up demand and a little bit more disposable income than they may have had pre-pandemic. The combination of number of job openings and low number of job seekers is creating the tightest labor market in the area that we're aware of, at least that our numbers go back to, as measured by the number of job seekers per job opening. So it's down in the region to a little more than one job seeker for every job opening. And we do a biennial survey of employers statewide, and over 80% of them are telling us that they're having difficulty hiring. The majority of that reason is just lack of applicants. Despite all this, North Carolina businesses are fairly optimistic overall. We do a pulse survey, which is new to the state of North Carolina. We've been doing since October, and I appreciate the shout out for that, Nathan, in your board packet. I encourage you all to go and take a look. You can go at analytics.ncommerce.com/pulse-survey. And I'd encourage you, or if you're a business or if you know businesses, to help us to complete the survey. This was a pilot project, so we were asking businesses to fill out the survey every month to see how things change. And we've run this for 5 months. We're in our 6th month. We are going to continue the survey if we can, but we can only continue it if we have enough participants, and we're getting kind of low on participants. So if you know anybody, please share. They can still complete the March survey through the end of the month. But we're finding some interesting findings from this already, and I'll be curious to see how things progress as we improve and get hopefully beyond the health crisis and Omicron into the summer. Overall, businesses are optimistic and have stayed optimistic about their potential for growth. 85% have said that they either expect business conditions to improve or stay the same over the next 6 months. And as a result of this optimism and tight labor market, we've seen jobs grow back quite quickly. Over the last year, we've seen sort of a V-shaped recovery. Remember, you might have heard this term economists were throwing out at the beginning of the pandemic. Are we going to see a V-shaped recovery? Are we going to see a U-shaped recovery? This is kind of what they were talking about. Are we going to see jobs drop super fast and rise very quickly, or are we going to increase? We've seen for the most part a rather sharp increase, and this is even actually faster than what we thought we knew just even a few weeks ago. So I'll just take this time right now to caution everybody about economic statistics, particularly monthly. They are estimates. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics provides direction for us to apply for producing these estimates. And the data is based in part solely on a model, but in part by a survey. And so as more data comes into that survey every month, and more information from other sources come in, those numbers get revised. And then once a year, we revise the whole year and actually go back multiple years and do revisions. And so this time when we made revisions, we saw a rather sharp difference in the number of jobs. The labor force numbers were a little bit off, and the unemployment rate was a little changed, but it was not quite as sharp as this. So caution you when you see something that maybe doesn't make any sense. And Nathan, I know you've called us out on that too. Why all of a sudden did we see jobs go down and we haven't seen people out of work? What's happening? If it doesn't make sense, it's good to question that, because sometimes it is just a statistical blip that gets corrected. In LEAD, we have developed our own kind of internal model. So if anything were to happen with particularly the monthly jobs numbers that you call into question, let us know. We may be able to look into some additional data and give a hint as to whether that might be a problem with the model or not. Still, jobs have bounced back. We're not recovered in the Asheville MSA. I've turned from talking about the workforce board area to the MSA, which I know is slightly different, but this is the geography that's available for monthly jobs numbers. We can see that North Carolina total jobs have fully recovered last summer. Asheville is still about 1.8% below what it was pre-pandemic. That equates to about 3,600 jobs that are not available as of January 2022 that were available in January of 20. So where have we seen this? It's been an uneven growth, not surprising to anybody. I'm sure where we are lacking in jobs is around a lot of those the hospitality industry and service industry that is reflective of higher touch industries that were affected by COVID. So you have at the bottom, leisure and hospitality is down 2,500 jobs, nearly 8.5%. Retail is still down a little. Other services is down 8.2. Where we've seen the growth are in areas that allow for some work from home, so some of the professional and business services that were not as impacted, financial activities, and then those dealing with the pandemic. We've seen a lot of transportation of goods, warehousing, wholesale grow not only in Asheville, but across the country. Now, you may be saying, what industries are we really talking about? There's a lot embedded within retail and hospitality and professional services. Here's just a list of those industries at a more detailed level that have grown the fastest in Buncombe County. Now, I chose Buncombe County because there's some data suppression in some of the smaller counties, but this reflects, I think, largely on what we'd see in the region. I don't expect everybody to be able to read quickly, so I'll just highlight some things where we've seen some of these fast employment growth industries. A lot of them are in areas where it's either business or tech related, things that can be done remotely. So whether that means people establishing offices or maintaining their presence in the Asheville area despite the pandemic, or in areas that may be pandemic related. So we've seen growth in things like couriers, couriers being people who can deliver food or goods to people. We've seen a lot of home deliveries, educational support services like tutoring. We've seen things like electronic shopping, mail order, social advocacy groups. We've seen a lot of social advocacy over the last 2 years, particularly with some of the racial and gender movements. At the bottom of the list, one area that may seem weird, that's not a service or a retail oriented. We have two, one being outpatient care centers, which again, shouldn't be a surprise dealing with the health crisis, but then other transportation equipment manufacturing. I'll let you think about what that means for a second. But really, I think encompassed within that industry is bicycles and motorcycles. So we have seen a lot of bicycles and motorcycle usage. It's hard to get a bicycle, still hard to get a bicycle in some markets. So things like that show up. Not only have we seen employment growth, but we've seen the number of establishments grow. So when we talk about business establishments, we're talking about not only individual businesses, but business locations. So they can be, one business that has, multiple stores or multiple offices. That would be included in these statistics. And the mountain area has grown even sharper than the state of North Carolina since 2010. Now, some of this, surprising or not surprising, actually occurred, if you look closely at the chart, between 2018 and 2019. So we did see some prelude to this pre-pandemic, where establishments started to grow. They may be entrepreneurial, they may be second offices of existing firms, but we did see that that grow and then really shoot up over the last 2 years. Looking into what those are, we have a lot of the same lists that we had previously. So some of those being the couriers and the software publishers. But then we have some others in here that look very pandemic related. So individual and family services, like counseling, it's taken a toll on a lot of people with the health crisis. Direct selling establishments, community food, housing and emergency relief services, RV parks and recreational camps, even down to florists and promoters of events, which may be people helping to do online conferences and whatnot. So some interesting findings, whether those establishments are ones that we can continue to see growth in, or whether they are just a reflection of the pandemic is yet to be seen. The competitive labor market has created wage increases despite inflation for the mountain area. So we adjusted the weekly wages that are reported. The latest data that we have is through the third quarter of 2021, and this comes from our QCEW program. If any of you are into data labor market statistics, we have seen a decent growth in the mountain area. A lot of that growth has happened in some of the lower wage industries. So if we look at the green bar being the percent increase between third quarter of 2019 and third quarter of 2021, and then we have the 2021 wage next to it, and anything in red here is below the average wage for the region. So the top five as far as percentage wage increases are all amongst the lower paying industries. Increases in wages also come with cost of living increases. The Asheville metro area has historically been a high cost of living area due to its great weather, great hiking mountains, great culture, and great people. And according to at least one measure, Asheville has the highest cost of living in the state of North Carolina through the second quarter of last year, led by housing, which C2ER's cost of living index estimates as being among the top 20% in US metros. MIT has a living wage calculator and estimates that a single adult in the Asheville region needs to make about $16.50 an hour. So some of those jobs that we saw previously on the previous graph, like accommodation and food services, don't pay $16.50 an hour. So that's may also be contributing to the difficulty in finding workers in those low wage industries. So what does this mean for the regional economy? The economy is still growing despite a lot of uncertainties. We have both the pandemic, inflation, and now the potential for military conflict in Europe. The pandemic recovery should help the region regain jobs lost. Hospitality is growing quite rapidly, and we expect that if trends were to continue, that sector will completely recover. The labor shortage should ease, but it's going to remain a challenge for employers, and conversely, an opportunity for workers as long as demand is strong. Don't expect this to go away. Not all of this, as I mentioned before, is pandemic related. A lot of it is demographic. Inflation, housing, cost of living, like I mentioned earlier, may be making it even more difficult to fill some of the lower wage jobs. Long-term, structural changes in the economy may or may not happen. We're still a little uncertain about that, whether we'll see some shifting changes in how industries and businesses and occupations function. Any of the remote work as well. Still a little too early to tell. And entrepreneurship, by every measure I've been able to look at, and it's hard to get these numbers at the local level, but entrepreneurship seems to have grown and grown rather quickly. Some of these, like we were looking at the establishments data for things like couriers, you can say, well, maybe some of that may be pandemic related and may soften. but some of it may not. So will entrepreneurship or the desire to work for oneself continue beyond the pandemic? Not quite sure. Lastly, what does all this mean for you and for the workforce system? While it's a tight labor market and employers are struggling to find workers, this is a great opportunity for those particularly historically disadvantaged or historically marginalized populations to get into employment. Think of those, from low income or poverty backgrounds, those are disabled or ex-offenders, dislocated youth. This is still probably the best time in the generation for those people to make advances and get employed. So a lot of our work should be focused around trying to get them into the labor market. But employment isn't enough. We've done enough research to know that if somebody's employed and they're employed in a low wage occupation and don't have any means of advancing, that they will continue to struggle. And when the economy turns, a lot of those people are unfortunately the first ones on the unemployment line. So there should be some focus to try to get people not only into employment, but into career paths and assistance into higher paying jobs. I know you all have your career pathways and are already working on this. So I'm not really saying a whole lot new here, but continue your work there. And I would, encourage you to even double down on that and look further. Employers, how can you help them? One, you can help them search online. In our employer needs survey this year, we continue to find more and more employers using online resources for hiring. To some of you, that may seem obvious, like they should have been using online resources, even their own websites, or Monster or Indeed all along, or NCWorks Online. But a lot of them, particularly in areas like construction or manufacturing or food service, haven't traditionally found employees through online ads. That's changing. With NCWorks Online, there's a free avenue to get those jobs posted. So that may be an opportunity to assist businesses. We've learned that wages aren't quite enough. Wages have risen in the areas I showed, but you still have a very tight labor market. There's a lot of studies nationally that have suggested that workers' demands have changed, that their preferences have changed. Not everybody wants to work the same job that they worked pre-pandemic. They want something else. They want flexible schedules. They want more benefits or time off. They want opportunities for education. They want childcare. There's lots of different things that people are looking for. Any assistance that we can give to businesses in making that transition to provide more than just the same job at the same pay or a little bit more may be enough to attract talent. Would encourage you to anticipate retirements. I think I've said this almost every time I've spoken to this group in the past. Baby boomers are, the baby boom phenomenon is real. Eventually they will leave the labor market. They are already. And we need to have employers who are prepared for that with succession plans and provide opportunity for younger workers. We need to anticipate technology adoption. Employers will only go so long with trying to find workers that aren't there. And eventually in all industries, and we've seen a lot of this in the pandemic with hospitality, resorting to technology for their labor as a substitution for labor. More of that is bound to happen. And when it does, businesses are going to need more skill training. So the workforce system can not only help with that and the skill training, but also help point them to the right resources to implement automation and technology where appropriate. And then lastly, you can help by understanding and supporting those new businesses and entrepreneurs I mentioned before. Not all of them are going to have sustainable businesses. Many small businesses close. A lot of those people may get back into the labor force and look for jobs working for somebody else. So stay in touch with those people. For those who you can help grow their businesses or make connections, great. For those who don't do as well and may need a job in the future, it's good to make those connections. So with that, I'll end my presentation, and if there's time, I guess we'll take questions. I'll share this with Nathan after, and you all can have access to it.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? Oh, well, not hearing any. Again, we certainly appreciate all of your input, and that whole issue with unemployment and the hospitality and food service. Those of us that are in that area and we see restaurants having, among others, having problems with just getting employees and having to close on the spur of the moment because the one available person isn't able to show up. It's certainly a challenge, but again, hopefully we will work our way through it. And maybe this spring, when we get to the high school and college students that are on summer break, maybe we'll start seeing some more of those people into the workforce.
I've got an off-the-wall question, Mr. Pals. It's in regards to what's happening in the Ukraine, and Jeff, what are your thoughts on the potential of Ukrainian immigrants coming to North Carolina to help with employment? How feasible or could that happen in the future?
I can't speak directly to it. I know that what I've heard is that the federal government is looking at ways to expedite some of that. Right now, a majority of those refugees are in Europe, and I think the federal government is encouraging them to stay in Europe. But they could come. I think it's still going to be a low number, particularly that would come to North Carolina. And I know we have a good Ukrainian population here in North Carolina. One of my coworkers is Ukrainian with family over there. And but I don't think that number that we could attract would really make a big dent in our labor force, unless they sent everybody to North Carolina.
Jeff, we really appreciate your presentation, and you've always been so supportive of our board. Anytime y'all have a question or reach out to me and I don't know how to get that answer, I reach out to Jeff and his team, and they're very supportive of us. So they always respond really quickly, and so we're grateful for your support from the NC Commerce team.
Thank you.
Dr. Palace, I think we have a quorum now. You want to go ahead and call the roll? And I know
Would you
we're running a
please,
little
Nathan?
behind time.
Yes, go ahead, call the roll.
Thank you so much. Sissy Rogers. I know Sissy was here.
I'm here, sorry.
Brian Dover, Peter Cook,
Here.
Michael Horvath,
Here.
Michael's here, Corey Hackney, Steve Newman,
Here.
Tara McCracken, Krista Flores,
Here.
Sam Hutchins, Danny Hine, Dr. Palace,
Here.
Beth McCann, Tony Carter, Graham Fields,
Here.
Dr. Will Hoffman, Jonathan Sukes,
Here.
Christopher McGlashan, Rick Sluter, Trudy Logan, Eric Watts, Robin Paulison,
Here.
Dr.
Here.
Leatherwood,
Here.
Dr. Gossett, Mr. Ross Young,
Here.
Lisa Chapman Deal, Tony Reed, Samantha Cole, Rodney Embler,
Yes, here.
Dr. Brian Weaver. So I think we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. So can we just have like a, instead of having to call the roll again on the consent agenda, just do ayes and nays. Anyone have any opposition, let them vocally do that, since to try to save a little time.
I think that's the right thing to do, Nathan. So you should all have seen the consent agenda, the items on the consent agenda for this meeting. Specifically, we had, now let me go back to our agenda. Okay, we had the performance reports, the minutes of the last meeting, the revised local work experience policy approval, the business accelerator grant, and the request for Goodwill OSY WEX budget amendment. Does anybody have any objection to any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would ask for a voice vote to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
And Mr. Chairman, we need a motion and a second.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to
We have a
approve.
motion.
Motion made by Sissy Rogers,
We have a
Ross Young,
second.
second.
Ross Young seconds that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you both. All right, now we can call the question. Is anybody, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as proposed? Say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion to approve the consent agenda has been passed. Thank you all. All right, this time, I'm going to call on Jonathan Zeus, Chair of the Board's Youth Committee, for the next introduction. Jonathan?
Thank you, Dr. Pallas. Thank you, everybody. The Workforce Board would like to bring to your attention some partners and programs in our region. You're going to hear later about our youth committee and how much we are really invested in trying to get to our youth. And we wanted to share with you some of these people that are just as intensely working on this as we are. And the presenters today will give you information on apprenticeships, youth programs, disconnected youth, and jobs for NC graduates. We, the board and the committees, would like to thank them for being here and sharing this information. We look forward to learning more from these presenters. And with that, I give you our first presenter, Commissioner Rebecca McCall with Henderson County Disconnected Youth Task Force.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today and share this information that I have become very passionate about. I believe I have a presentation that's already loaded. Melissa, can you help me with that? Or do I need to share my screen?
Nathan's going to share the screen with you.
Okay.
So you can
Okay.
flip through them as you need to. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. So if we can put it on presentation mode, there we go. Okay, so the Pathways program was an initiative by the president of the NCACC in 2019, Kevin Austin from Yadkin County. Every year, the president of NCACC takes on an initiative and they put together a task force and focus on things that are be beneficial to all of the counties. I had the opportunity to participate in this task force, focusing on disconnect. Can you hear me? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
Now it stopped.
You're muted again, Commissioner McCall. There you go.
Okay. I don't seem to be able to move the slides.
Here,
You want to help me with that?
yes, are we on the second slide now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just tell me next slide when you'd like
Okay.
for me to move.
Okay. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. So this task force was made up of multiple commissioners from across the state. You know, there are 100 counties, so that we had a good participation and with varied backgrounds, anything from school teachers to business people. I personally represented past industry. I'm one of those. aging out baby boomers, I left the workforce and then became a commissioner. So trying to continue to share what I learned through the workforce. But the vision was to lead local youth towards meaningful and sustainable future. And we wanted to come up with something that we could share with all counties, like I said. Okay, Nathan. So who are disconnected youth? Well, the disconnected youth are teenagers and young adults between the ages of 16 and 19 who are neither working nor in school. And there are some of those dislocated youth, some of those youth that we have actually lost contact with in many ways. Statewide, we're at 9.65% of our youth that are considered disconnected, but it gets as high as 23% in places like Allegheny County. And the effects of COVID did not help any, of course, with school closures, the suspension of youth programs, the separation from teachers and counselors and other adults who were trying to help these youth. And then just the job force itself during that time, people lost touch, and these youth were probably affected more than most. Okay, Nathan.
I'm sorry. I apologize. It's sort of locked up on me. There, can you see the next slide?
Okay. So what we were working with at the time was the census from 2017, and we had an estimate of 4,500, a little over 4,500 that fell into the category of 16 to 19-year-olds in Henderson County. And then now that we have our 2021 census, that number of youth that fall in that age range are around 4,700. Okay, next slide. And of those numbers, we found that there were roughly 7% or a little over 300 that were considered disconnected. And now we've grown up to about 8% or 370. And this is just in Henderson County, of course. These numbers are all available through the county map that is provided through NCACC, and that can be found on their website. There's a lot of statistical data on that NCACC website that's beneficial. So I shared who these youth are, but where are they? And what happens if they remain out of the workforce for very long? They actually become institutionalized as far as not being part of the workforce. And this is a national annual cost of $93 billion. That number blew me away when I first heard about it. But it's made up of lost revenue, increased social services, and everything that you can think of that comes with taking care of someone who does not participate in the workforce and doesn't care for themselves. So the purpose of the task force was to better understand the issues and then determine how the counties and the state can work together to provide pathways for these people. But one thing we just definitely found out that it can affect any family. It's not just isolated to low economic status, where those are more of the majority, but it affects those that have a lack of adult supervision or direction or involvement. And I'll share more about that as we go on. So the next slide, please. So we learned about several examples of how different counties are helping with this problem throughout the state. And one county is Forsyth County, and we were actually meeting in Forsyth County. So we were introduced to 3 teenagers at the time that had started participating in a program called FACE, which stands for Forsyth Academy of Continuing Education. Now, each of these 3 had a different background. One of them was 14 years old, so he didn't really qualify for the disconnected youth category yet, but that's the direction he was headed. He was the oldest sibling of a single mom who obviously had to work a lot to take care of her family, and it was an inner city home. So just the social struggles were there. He was not interested in school at all. He had no school involvement. He showed up, but that was about it. He had no friends. He had no goals for the future. He was just there. The next one was 16-year-old female who was extremely involved in school, was in sports and school government and school activities, but she was the only child and had a terminally ill mother. And she herself made the decision to put her school on hold and stay at home with her mother during the day while her father worked. So that only gave her evenings to do anything as far as herself was concerned. And then there was a 16-year-old male that came from a very stable home, 2 parents. He had 2 older siblings, though, both who were in college. And he had no interest in school, but he was trying to live up to his siblings' standards. He had no desire to go to college. But he was feeling the pressure to do so. And he had a huge lack of concentration. But through this program, which you'll go to the next slide, please, it offered each of them the opportunity to continue their, okay, Nathan, next slide.
I apologize. Mr.
Okay,
Collins.
that's all right.
My computer's locking up on me. There we
I'm
go.
sorry. Okay, so it offered them the opportunity to have flexible class times through this program. Like the teenager that had the ill mother, she could go in the evenings and take her classes, or she could take them online. But if she needed that one-on-one experience with her teachers, then she had that opportunity. It helped the students to pass those classes. It gave them the opportunity to have more one-on-one student-teacher time. And through this program, they were still able to participate in school programs like prom and sports and clubs and band and all of that is so important in a kid's life. We also were introduced to other programs such as K64 in Catawba County. And this is through the community college, but it was started by a business leader named Mike Story, who sadly passed away right after we met him in 2019. But he challenged the business leaders in his area to get involved in their future workforce. If you as a business owner want to have workforce in the future, then you need to help to develop that workforce by getting involved in the schools and helping to provide scholarships where necessary, introducing students to careers opportunities in the area. Another one that I really like is the Mcnair Foundation. You may have heard of it. It's in Rutherford County. It's 30 years old. 30 years ago, Robert and Janice Mcnair started this foundation. And what it does is it provides a mentor for every middle and high school student in Rutherford County. And ideally, that mentor follows them from 7th grade all the way through 12th grade and helps them to develop their career paths and find scholarship money to go on to school if that's what they choose to do, or just find out what fits them and what makes them happy as far as developing a career path. Okay, next. And then lastly, we were introduced to a program that is in Yadkin County, that is the county where our president is from, and it's called Dream It, Do It. And this also was developed by some of the businesses there, but it's more geared towards the STEM type students. It focuses more on teaching students about engineering and manufacturing management, entrepreneurship, research and development, and all of that sort of career, and helping them to find the way to get there. Okay, next.
Again, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm clicking my enter button. There it finally goes.
Okay. Other programs that are available, they're not as intense, but they actually provide some guidance and some help, and you may be familiar with some of these. My Future NC, of course, and their goal is to have 2 million degrees by 2030. I'm proud to be on the Commissioners Advisory Council, was recently asked to be a part of that. The mentorship programs that are various throughout the state, we have them in, we hope to develop them in Henderson County. The STEP program, which involves pre-K to post-secondary students. And it's very important to focus on those younger students as well. You can't get a hold of them too early to help them develop their their goals in life. Then there's early college at the high school, which we have here in Henderson County. There's Senate Bill 391, which was passed in 2019, and it provides those 16 and 17-year-olds the opportunity for apprenticeship. And this is something that we've implemented in Henderson County and has been very successful. It started with manufacturing and it's grown to automotive and banking, and we have a lot of participation through our community college. I just can't say enough about that. It's been wonderful and it continues to grow. And then there's online high school, which was already there, but was great when we went through the pandemic because the structure of online high school was already available to those students. So where does the funding come from these programs? Well, it comes from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act, which is up for reauthorization this year. It comes from line grants and collaboration with the workforce, partnerships with businesses, and then those normal nonprofits such as United Way and United Fund. So what we did in Henderson County was we took the challenge and we started our task force focusing on our county and taking that statewide initiative and whittling it down to what's best for us. So next slide. And we looked at what we already offer. We offer early college, which is through a partnership between our school system and our community college. We offer innovative high school, which is where the early college is housed. We offer career counselors, which are located at the college, but they focus on the high school students. We offer Boys and Girls Club, where there's 400 plus in attendance. We have Camplify, which focuses on all those age groups, and Camplify takes in these kids and helps them to find a focus. And they actually have camp in the summertime, which is why the word camp is involved. And they have 100% success rate with that program, taking the kids that are, they're destined for being lost, but they turn them around quickly. We have JCPC, which all have, but in our JCPC, we have an organization called Kids at Work, and they teach kids how to work in mostly the hospitality fields. And then we have the Apprenticeship Program, which I already talked about. So our group that we have developed, our task force, we started in October 2021. I wanted to start earlier, but with the pandemic, it was just more difficult than it was worth. So we started in October, and we have a group that consists of members from DSS. We have a sheriff's resource officer from the schools. We have Parks and Rec members who were actually part of the school system at one time. We have community college members. We have the school system members. We have Board of Education. We have Partnership for Economic Development, which helped with development of the apprenticeship program that we have. And we have some people who are involved in foster care. What we did was we reviewed the causes for disconnected youth. I'm a Six Sigma black belt by trade, so I've been trained to look for the root cause of things. And so I wanted to find out what's the reason that a child becomes disconnected, and then focus on prevention. Let's stop it before it happens. Let's get to these kids before they can become disconnected, while also helping those that are already disconnected. And we are considering strongly developing a mentorship program like the Mcnair Foundation in Rutherford County. But we're at the stage in our program, in our task force, where we're going to be starting to put together our recommendations to present to the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. So counties can use the Pathways report to help them develop their own pathway program. And this is a link to the full report that was put together. Just remember that success is not defined the same for everyone. So I'm open for questions, or you're welcome to contact me directly anytime and talk further about how this program works.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McCall. Chair Sukes or Chairman Palace, you have anything else to say, or we're a little behind time, but that, I apologize for that, but that wasn't Commissioner McCall's fault. That was my fault. Taking so long to call the roll and everything else.
Okay, no problem. I am going to disconnect myself from your meeting, but if anybody wants to get in touch with me, my contact information is on the Henderson County NC.gov website, so feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Commissioner McCall, for sharing with us. I know your time's very busy, and we appreciate everything you do for Henderson County and our region.
Well, I'm on my way to talk about broadband, so that's what's next on the.
Well,
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you agreeing to present.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Take care. Bye.
So, Chairman Palace or Jonathan, our next presentation, you want to introduce Charlie
Jonathan,
Milling?
I think this is for you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
And Charlie, I will
Yes.
let you share your slides if you've got them. So
I do have them. You bet, Nathan. Thank
you
you.
can do that better than I can.
Some days. We'll see how today goes. All righty. Can you all see my screen?
We can. It's not in slideshow mode, but we can see it. So
Cool. How do I move this? There we go. All righty, I'm gonna minimize that. So thank you all for having me. I know our time is, we're running a little short, so I'll try and move as quickly along as I possibly can. I just want to talk to you all a little bit about the work-based learning and apprenticeships and how it all connects. I think Commissioner McCall said it best, you can't ever get to young people early enough. And so, how do I hide? How do I hide that? There we go. Okay. So to set this up, I wanted to introduce this idea. If you haven't heard it, I hope it's new to some of you all, this idea of the work-based learning continuum. And I think we're all working, most of us are working on this continuum at some point, right? At some spot. And apprenticeship is at the end, but the continuum itself happens in 3 distinct phases. First is this career awareness. These are the career fairs, guest speakers, field trips, job shadowing, work site tours. This is where an individual learns about work. And as Commissioner McCall said, you can't get to young people early enough. So these career awareness activities really should be happening in middle school, maybe even late elementary school, 4th grade, 5th grade, just to get a young person thinking about options. And really, I would argue that companies, employers need to be involved in this first step as well, right? They need to be in the middle schools. They need to be in the 5th grade, talking to kids. Employers need to go to them as well. I think, how do I say it? If employers sit back and expect their next generation of employees and that workforce to come to them, it's not going to happen. So they need to get out there and help young people become aware of what the options are. So after that phase, moving into the high school years, there's career exploration, right? These are mock interviews, science fairs. In the hospitality and culinary sector, it could be a cooking competition, right? Teacher externships. So this is where a high schooler learns about the industry through work, they start to get some practical hands-on experience. And also in this exploration, hopefully there is some related instruction happening, right? They're starting to take either some career and technical educations courses in culinary, let's say, or early childhood education, or whatever it may be. After that phase, so they've become aware, they've started to explore it, started to get a sense of what it is, and maybe that really sticks with them. And I'll give you an example of a young person here a little bit later. Then they really want to experience it, right? And that's where apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships come in. And this should be kind of that upper class years in high school and post-secondary. So these are the apprenticeships, the co-ops, and the internships, on-the-job training programs, practicums, pre-apprenticeships. So it's learning for the work to launch themselves into that career. And this is what we want to create, a robust continuum. And think numbers wise, right? And this is again why we say we can't get to young people early enough. The larger, the more people that do career awareness programs, the more people will move into career exploration, the more people will move into career experience, and eventually move into a career and into an industry, with an employer, and they're often retained at higher rates. So a couple quick facts about apprenticeships in general. And when I say apprenticeships, I mean apprenticeship programs that are registered either with the state apprenticeship agency or with the United States Department of Labor. So there are over 24,000 apprenticeship programs across the nation. In North Carolina, there are over 1,100 programs with over 8,000 registered apprentices in the state. And this is in 2020-21 data. Where are they? And what I want you all to take from this map is the cluster of participation. It's mainly centered in the central part, right? If you look at Mecklenburg, 2508, Wake County, where Raleigh is, 1050, Cumberland County, 665, right? It's through this central corridor. As we expand west and east, the numbers decline, but it tracks with your population centers. So these are a little bit old, so these numbers are not quite 100% accurate, but it does show a pattern. And it shows that there's a lot of growth potential in Madison and Transylvania counties. So what is in a registered apprenticeship? Not a pre-apprenticeship, but a registered apprenticeship. You have to have 3 components. You have to have a set of related instruction. You have to have an on-the-job training program, and there has to be a progressive wage scale. So a registered apprenticeship program has an individual getting some kind of coursework, often through the local community college, so either AB Tech, Blue Ridge. While they're getting that related instruction, they're also hired by an employer, and they're receiving practical hands-on training experience, and they work through competencies that are part of the on-the-job training program. And as they gain in knowledge and in their skills, they should be receiving higher and higher wages. What I want to focus on, though, really is the youth apprenticeship model. And because, again, we need to get the youth involved in these pathways early on and on this continuum early on. So typically, a youth apprenticeship starts with the pre-apprenticeship and leads into an apprenticeship after high school graduation. What's included in a pre-apprenticeship? A pre-apprenticeship can include related instruction, so it could be a CTE course, it could be a kind of a human development type course through the community college, or a working smart professional development type course. It also include on-the-job learning or training, so maybe they go work for a couple weeks through an employer or two and get that practical experience. It could include both. So there's a lot of pre-apprenticeship, or a lot of options in pre-apprenticeship. Note that on a pre-apprenticeship, you don't have to have wages. So it's something to keep in mind. The minimum age for a pre-apprenticeship, and for an apprenticeship for that matter, is 16. So a pre-apprenticeship can happen during school, after school, could be during the summers, could be all 3. Why is youth apprenticeship important in North Carolina? From an employer perspective, it's a model that works. So youth apprentices have a 91% retention rate. That is, if an employee starts with the company via a youth apprenticeship pathway, there's 91% chance they're still with that company after the end of the entire pathway is done. So it's huge, and there are many benefits for the individual going through that pathway. There's structure, there's mentorship, there's industry credentials that they receive. All completers of a registered apprenticeship get a U.S. Department of Labor Journey Worker card that's portable, that goes with them anywhere, and that's for any occupation. So one option, there are many options, and real quick, I will say kudos to both AB Tech and Blue Ridge. Y'all, they're doing amazing things with the youth apprenticeship model and with pre-apprenticeship programs. For instance, Debbie, I'm going to brag on you real quick, and I'll brag on Blue Ridge as well, that AB Tech just launched a pilot ESL machining pre-apprenticeship that I think it's the first of its kind in the state, and it's an amazing opportunity. And Blue Ridge just got an award at our Apprenticeship NC conference for best pre-apprenticeship in the state. So they're doing great things. Another option that I did want to show you all is what Apprenticeship NC calls Career Lodge. And what it does is takes prepackaged existing career and technical education courses and CCP pathway classes, and they're registered as pre-apprenticeship programs. And what it does is provides ultimately free tuition, for one thing, and a structured pathway to get high schoolers into this work-based learning continuum. And I'm going to go ahead and go straight to, yes, hospitality and tourism. This is a registered program sponsored by the Department of Public Instruction. And what it is, this is a pre-apprenticeship program, and students who take the CT pathway while in high school, they are eligible for the community college tuition waiver after they complete this pre-apprenticeship, and that can be used then in an apprenticeship. So during high school, the student takes 2 courses, 2 food and hospitality courses. They obtain food protection manager certification, and then they can attain one of 3 industry recognized credentials, either ProStart or 2 other credentials. And this is just in high school. Then they graduate, and then they're eligible for that tuition waiver. And we just had, I believe, our first student out of Asheville High that's going to register for this and then enter into an apprenticeship with a hotel in downtown Asheville to do their apprenticeship for a hotel associate. And so it can work, and very exciting. Another one that is early childhood education. So while in high school, the high school takes FE12, or if there's a Career and College Promise EDU 119 option with the local community college, with Blue Ridge or AB Tech, then that could count. They just take that class, graduate, and then again, they're eligible for that tuition waiver to go in to use in an apprenticeship. And so many of the early childhood education apprenticeships are requiring their apprentices to get an associate's in early childhood education. So if the high schooler starts at this point and does this pre-apprenticeship, then that whole associate's, that tuition for that whole associate's is covered using the tuition waiver. So how to develop youth apprenticeship pathways. I'll say here, actually, first, you can talk to me, but I also recommend talking to Blue Ridge Community College or AB Tech. Have folks contact Debbie. Debbie, I hope you're going to get real busy soon, if you're not busy enough. Or Shanda Bedoyan or Kelly Stewart at Blue Ridge, because they're as knowledgeable about all this as I am. So Well, you can also inquire at your high school about youth apprenticeship opportunities, and then see what the pre-apprenticeships option are, get enrolled, get hired, complete the pre-apprenticeship requirements. And then here's the key: you have to get connected with an apprenticeship program within 120 days of the high schooler's graduation date. If that happens, then that tuition waiver kicks in. And the results, again, free tuition at a community college and a job in an apprenticeship program with progressive wages and a structured pathway. So that's a little bit about it. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me. And again, feel free to contact the community college reps as well, because like I said, they're very knowledgeable as well. Thank you. And that is all I have.
All right, well, thank you. We certainly appreciate that. And I know that, here in where I am in Transylvania County, that, some of the challenges we have is just even making some of the students in the schools aware of the different vocations that are available to them. So this would certainly be a good option to start pursuing.
I think, Mr. Chairman, next is Kristen Kress and Jordan Meeks with Goodwill. And maybe to save time, we could just have the board members read the committee reports and the staff reports.
All right, is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes,
yes,
go ahead,
ma'am.
Kristen.
All right, great. And we will try to move through this as quickly as we can. I know we are pressed for time.
So I'll start things off. My name is Jordan Meeks. I'm the Youth Programs Manager at Goodwill in Asheville. Our Goodwill as a whole has 4 departments: the Skills Training Department, Career Connections, Community Access, and Youth Departments. All of our programs and all of our services are focused around helping members of our direct community enhance their lives through training, workforce development services, and collaborating with community organizations. Not a lot of people know that that exists, so I thought that was worth throwing in there. So the youth department specifically is comprised of 3 programs. We have the LINKS program that works with DSS and provides independent living skills for foster youth ages 14 to 21, as well as providing financial assistance for things like car match, finding affordable housing, which is obviously a pretty big barrier at the moment right now in Asheville area in general. And we also provide financial incentives for reaching their preset goals for the LINKS program. The One Life program is an in-school program for high schoolers. They meet once a week during their second semester during their school day with a group of about 15 students or so and 2 of our staff members. And they talk about different life topics, job readiness skills, things like that, a lot of soft skill related things. And then they get a summer internship where they're paid around $1,000 to work at a local community business partner. And it's typically in the field that they're interested in going in. And aside from those, then we have NextGen too, but I'm going to let Kristen talk about that. So aside from those programs, we also provide one-on-one support for students. We do college tours, and we also have a yearly real world event, which is a really engaging, very hands-on budget simulation event. And the pre-pandemic was the last time we were able to do it, but we had over 300 students attend that. So it's a very eye-opening experience for our youth to get to see how expensive it is to live on their own. So again, beyond that, and I'm going to throw it over to Kristen. She's our amazing coordinator of the NextGen program to share with you guys what that program is all about.
Great, thanks, Jordan. So hi, everybody, good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kristen Kress, and I'm the NextGen coordinator here with Goodwill. Let's see if I can move our slides. Okay. I operate our program in Buncombe County, and my coworker, Rachel Olson, who's also on the call, focuses her time and attention in Transylvania County. So for those of you that don't know, NextGen is the WIOA Youth Program, programmatic name. The Mountain Area Workforce Development Board contracts with Goodwill to operate NextGen in Buncombe and Transylvania County. And before I move on, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the board for all of your support over the years, especially to Nathan and Zia and Melissa and Barbara, who are just invaluable, always available to email and call and answer questions and help us operate this program. So with that being said, let me tell you a little bit about who we work with. So we recruit young adults who are age 16 to 24 in Buncombe and Transylvania counties. They must be out of school at the time of enrollment, and that can be for any reason. Some of our students never finished high school, some of them finished and just kind of got lost in the shuffle after graduating high school, and some even have some college credit, but for some reason, one reason or another, never finished. So at the time that we meet them, they're not in school. And then they also meet some sort of additional barrier, and that can be that they are a high school dropout, they have a documented disability, some sort of criminal history, they can be pregnant or a parent, all sorts of different barriers. So what we offer, we spend a lot of time trying to find our students or our youth because they're not traditionally where they're supposed to be at this age. They're 16 to 24, not in school and usually not in the workforce. So we spend a lot of time trying to find them, and then once we find them, we get them enrolled and really focus on two areas, that's school and work. We look short-term, and then we're also looking long-term to develop career pathways and educational plans for their long-term success. Our program is not one size fits all. We really tailor it to the individual and what their needs are. So if we're looking at school, we will help our students enroll in a GED program or adult high school program if that's what's the next right step for them. If they've already got that diploma, then we're looking at a program at AB Tech or Blue Ridge most frequently to start looking at short and long-term training programs. We are their case manager to walk by their side as they start to imagine themselves actually returning to school, because that's a big barrier. You know, our students had to leave school for one reason or another. And so to help them build that confidence, to get them back into school, to also walk that path with them, help them get connected to the school, help them register, get through orientation. And then a really important factor here is that we have funds to help pay for those programs. So, you know, the goal here is to really remove any financial barrier to returning to school. So we will help pay for tuition, books, fees, sometimes even supplies, so that finances are a non-issue as far as getting into school and training. So that's kind of the school piece. As far as work goes, we have several different options. If they just need a job right now, we will certainly help them with a resume and practice for an interview and doing job applications, kind of all those things. But we're also looking long-term and developing, you know, a career pathway. So some of the things we offer there are paid workplace experience or a paid internship with a local business. And the way that works is the young adult is actually hired on to Goodwill, is technically our employee and is paid through NextGen, but they're not working at Goodwill. We reach out to local businesses that are more in line with their career goals, and they actually spend their time there. So for example, we just set up a workplace experience at a preschool. This young lady is really interested in the early childhood education field. And so she's spending her time there and is getting really great experience, some exposure to what it's like to work in that job. Because a lot of times we have an idea in our head of what a job can be. And then when you go and you actually step foot into the building and you start doing the job, it can be way different. So that's an absolutely invaluable experience. And a lot of times our interns leave with a job offer from that company. And, you know, at the very least, they're leaving with work history to put on their resume, some income coming in, and also a reference letter. A newer service that we've started offering this program year is called OJT, or on-the-job training. Barbara Darby, who's the business services coordinator, really oversees this more so with adults, but has started to work with us to offer this to our youth participants in NextGen. And the way that works is we are essentially a matchmaker between businesses that have job postings and our students that are looking for permanent employment. So they would go through the hiring process just like any other candidate. And if the business decides that they want to hire our next gen participant, Barbara will step in and develop a skills gap or evaluate a skills gap and create a training plan. And then the business actually can get reimbursed for a good percentage of the wages paid to that participant for the first several months. So, you know, it's an incentive to the business to hire a younger, maybe more less experienced candidate, and, you know, a great way for our young people to get their foot in the door somewhere. So obviously work and school don't happen in a vacuum, and our students can, you know, run into a variety of different obstacles and hurdles as they're working on their goals. So we have some funding available for supportive services. So that can look like gas money or bus passes to help them get back and forth to school or work. It can look like, you know, helping pay for childcare so that they're available to do their schoolwork or go to work. So there's a variety of different things there. Of course, these are really big issues that I'm talking about: childcare, transportation, housing, that, you know, we certainly don't have the magic wand and we can't solve it with, you know, the limited money we do have, but it certainly can help. And then finally, you know, our participants benefit from having a one-on-one coach and an individualized plan. We really help them see where they are now and where they can go and how to get there. And they just have another adult in their corner who is a cheerleader for them, celebrates their victories, and, you know, helps them overcome, you know, their challenges and obstacles as they inevitably will face. So I really thought it would be valuable for you to hear from our students about what NextGen has meant to them. So I reached out to a handful of our students and asked them to send me just a couple of sentences about what the program has meant. I won't read through all these, but just take a moment and, you know, glance over these. And I share this with you, not to brag about the work that I do or that Rachel does. We could certainly not be a part of this program, and the program would continue and make really impactful change. This is truly to show you the impact that, you know, investing in programs like NextGen and apprenticeships and, you know, the programs in Henderson County, what these programs mean to our students, to the youth and young adults right here in our community. It is making a significant impact, and really, really has helped them. And again, that's not because of me, that's not because of Rachel, that's because of the support funneled through the program. And then I also asked our students if they could summarize NextGen, what NextGen has meant to them in one word, what that word would be. So you'll see here some pretty powerful words: supportive, a blessing, unbelievable, helpful, life-changing. I had several students respond with hope, the word hope. And I hope that that's what you leave with today is knowing that, again, by investing in these programs for our you know, youth and young adults in our communities, you're giving them hope, and that not only changes their lives, their family lives, but it changes our community as a whole. So finally, I hope that I have inspired you to work with us. We're always looking for ways to partner with other organizations and businesses in our community. So here's a handful of ways to do that. If you know a youth or young adult that's 16 to 24 that could benefit from our services, make a referral. Host an intern for a paid workplace experience. Let us know about job openings for your business, either just to hire on permanently or to contract through an OJT. Or if those are too big of a commitment, open your doors for a job shadow, or just have a phone call or a Zoom call with some of our participants. a big piece of our job is giving them exposure, trying to open their minds to the possibilities. And they can hear Rachel and I ramble about what the opportunities are, but if they can connect with, businesses and professionals in our community who, if you're willing to share your story, talk about your educational journey, your obstacles, your victories, your career plan and pathway, that makes a huge impact and isn't a whole lot of commitment on your end. So we would love to have you do that. That's it. I will wrap up and let the meeting move along. Please feel free to reach out to Rachel or myself with any comments or questions. And then I'm also going to drop in the chat a link if you are interested in partnering with us in any way. It's just a short form you can fill out really quick about how you'd like to work with us, and I'll be in touch. Thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you both for your report. Obviously there's a need for this in our communities, and I think that you're helping to fill that need. When you take a look at the numbers that we have that fall into that category, I think that it's important, all these different options that we can be providing for them. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, hearing none. Thank you again. Jonathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our last speaker is Arthur Kelly with Jobs for NC Graduates.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Arthur Kelly. I'm a college and career specialist here at Henderson County Career Academy, the innovative high school as part of the Henderson County School District. There's actually a lot of crossover between what I do here at Henderson County Career Academy and what the previous speakers have been talking about. The difference being I have an individualized pathway set for at-risk students through a program called Jobs for North Carolina's Graduates. It's a subsidiary of Jobs for America's Graduates, which is a part of the national nonprofit Communities in Schools. I'll share my screen in order to help flow through this presentation. All right, if I could just go to slideshow. All right. So again, Jobs for North Carolina's Graduates is a part of Communities in Schools North Carolina. We are a program in the high school classroom. It's a 4-credit high school class given to targeted individuals who meet certain prerequisite criteria based on barriers to success. The Communities in Schools model involves school leadership, Communities in Schools, evidence-based wraparound services, which I'll explain on the next slide, and effective teachers. Essentially what I do is I provide in-classroom instruction combined with employer engagement using project-based learning, and I utilize trauma-informed care in the classroom as well, because many of our students come from diverse backgrounds and face significant barriers. Here is the Communities in Schools model. You'll notice that through our CIS affiliates, site coordinators, and collaborative partners, we first establish needs of students. We go through a planning process involving integrated student supports, and we have various tiers of how in-depth we get with the individualization of our program based on the student's needs. So first we offer school-wide services, then we have more targeted programs, and then we continue into individualized support as needed. That flows into monitoring and adjusting and evaluation, and generally we have proven success. If not, we go back into the needs assessment. So we currently serve over 1.5 million students in the last 41 years. That's JAG National. 1,200 communities in the United States. North Carolina joined the JAG network as the 35th state to offer the student-centered college and career readiness program to its high school students in the 2017-2018 school year. Our mission is to achieve high outcomes in graduation and employment rates, resulting in increased college access and completion. College and career specialists who are trained to prepare students to achieve academic, career, and life success serve students in 8 North Carolina counties. So JAG's primary goals is to reach a 90% graduation rate. We float right around that and have had great success in this. We used to call our students the most at risk. Any of you who are familiar with the history of Henderson County Career Academy and Innovative High School, this establishment used to be Balfour, which was the alternative high school. It went through a rebranding when it became connected to Blue Ridge Community College. And now there's 2 parts to the school. There's the early college, which traffics students directly into Blue Ridge through concurrent class enrollment. And then we also have the Career Academy, which is a career readiness focus with we have a diverse group of instructors here from culinary, mechatronics, firefighting, and again, it's certificate training focused. So now we call our formerly at-risk students, students of promise in the JAG program. Our 5 of 5 goals, after 1 year of monthly follow-up services, we generally obtain a 90% graduation rate. 80% of all JAG students are employed, enlisted in the military, or enrolled in higher education. Generally, at least 60% are employed full-time. 60% are total in full-time positive outcomes, which includes enrollment in secondary education. And then the 35% is our goal to reach post-secondary. The JAG Advantage is really where I come in as a specialist. We combine trauma-informed care. We ask not what has happened, we ask what's happened to students instead of what's wrong with them. We provide project-based learning, and I'm sorry, was there a question? No, I'm sorry. All right, so our specialists deliver instructions through projects. I generally use hands-on learning to meet our competencies using the tools that are there. When I teach job applications, I use NCWorks, Indeed, or any other job search online system in order to teach students how to actually fill out job applications. And then I also provide employer engagement. I will help function as a reference on students' applications. I'll help them build resumes. I'll help them highlight their successes in credentialing. And I provide individualized pathways to success for all of these students. Currently serving 23 in this school year. And we have 35 follow-up students in our current year. So here's some statistics about our graduation rate compared to the statewide graduation rates. You'll see that in 2017, 2018, North Carolina had about an 86% graduation rate across all high school students. But JNCG students in the first year of the plan of the program had a 93.67% graduation rate. And that has steadily increased over the years that we've had the program to a 99.22% success rate last year. And according to my knowledge, that was only 3 students who did not graduate out of the 247 who were served by the program. So our barriers that enable students to utilize this program and our resources are based on academic criteria, personal criteria, environmental criteria, income and work-related criteria, and social criteria. I'll give you all a moment just to look through that. I won't waste your time by reading it all out to you, but this is the standard barriers to success that you might think would be associated with adverse childhood experiences, bullying, becoming pregnant during their teen years, refugee status, dealing with mental illness, loss of a parent, ESL students, people who have had a record of disciplinary actions or lack of attendance. These are the students I bring into my fold, and then I provide individualized guidance counseling and classroom instruction in college and career readiness as they need. And here are our competencies. This is essentially the curriculum that we teach in the JAG program. This is just the level 1 competencies. This is a multi-year program. I serve juniors and seniors as they progress into the workforce. And you'll notice that this is a lot of the basic life skills that is just not taught in the high school curriculum across the state or nationwide in general. From developing a career path, selecting an immediate job goal, completing job interviews. I conduct mock interviews. I work directly with NCWorks here at Blue Ridge Community College. Stacy Hill has been very helpful providing soft skills training, resume building training, and teaching my students how to use the NCWorks online program. You'll notice as we go along, these are human relations, how to appropriately resign, how to dress appropriately for the workplace. We include basic skills competencies such as writing, reading, and doing basic math. I also provide budgeting, financial readiness, and tax instruction, because that's what the students give me generally as feedback, as well as life planning skills, decision-making skills, and how to make mature values-based decisions. So if you look at this slide, our demographics are diverse. We value our organization's commitment to equity and inclusion. And these are some of the percentages higher than the standard population within the 18 to 20-year-old range of successful outcomes. And these are just some photos I decided to include to show you our happy students during graduation here at Henderson County Career Academy. In the 2018-2019 school year, we had 100% graduation rate. We only had one student that didn't graduate the year after. And when I took up this job from my predecessor, Virginia Haynes, who went on to become our state director, we have had nobody failed to graduate from the one semester that I took over. We, again, use workplace engagement in classroom instruction. I bring in guest speakers all the time. I serve as my school's military and recruiter liaison. I myself came from a military background. I had to join the Army after finding little success after high school in order to find the direction that I needed. So I try to include that in my planning process and our employer engagement. I very genuinely respect the apprenticeship program that is going on at Blue Ridge right now. Kelly Stewart has been super helpful, and I have several students that are very interested in those programs. We utilize NCWorks heavily. I very much like their programs over there. So our partnership is invaluable to the JAG program. And again, this is some of our students and successful outcomes, diverse workplaces, diverse outcomes, diverse experiences. But ultimately, what they need is a supportive, caring adult and the basic instruction on those skills they need to have to enter the workplace successfully. If you want to be involved with JNCG, there's, depending on the level you want to be involved with, these are the contact points. If you're talking just Henderson County and looking for workers to join an organization, then it would be me, Arthur Kelly. You see my email right there. State level coordination is done by Virginia Haynes, my predecessor, and Jill Cox is the CEO of Communities and Schools North Carolina, the nonprofit organization that runs our program. Any questions? All right, well, thank you all very much for your time. I look forward to engaging with many of you in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I think you can turn it over to Jonathan to give youth report, and we'll try to wrap it up after that. But I apologize for us going over past 4:30. So.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for our speakers. I think it's great information. Just want to go over a few things. Youth report is in your packet. I highly suggest all of you read it. There's also some attachments. The youth committee is working on a ton of things. Charlie Milling, who was one of our speakers today, helped us create a sheet for businesses debunking apprenticeship myths. Please take a look at that. Really what the committee is going to be asking for is assistance from board members in getting these sheets out to students, to businesses. We're going to be looking for board approval to do some videoing of some upcoming youth programs that we're going to be doing June 2nd at AB Tech. It's a little program to share with students the importance of exporting and jobs that are in exporting, from compliance to logistics through finance to marketing to you name it. So that's another thing I want to congratulate. We heard earlier that Blue Ridge Community College received an award this year, the 2022 ApprenticeshipNC Outstanding Registered Pre-Apprenticeship Program Award for the Made in Henderson County Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Congratulations to them. The other thing that we're going to be asking for is anybody who has connections to any of these organizations and more, FBLA, FFA, DECA, Big Brother, Big Sister, any kind of camps. The youth committee is looking for connections to all these organizations through all the schools so that we can start getting this youth information out in regards to apprenticeships and everything else. So these are things that we really need from the board. And I really encourage everybody to look at the board packet, because I mean, there is 3 pages of really good information that we're working on. And we have already done a lot of the goals that we've set forth in 2022, and we need the board's help to go to the next level. So we're going to be meeting April 1st, hearing about NC apprenticeships from Cindy Messer, and going through that process. But we really need your assistance on helping us connect to these organizations, helping get information out, helping make these programs that we're working on, especially June 2nd, big program. You're going to have executives from Caterpillar, large banks, small companies, large companies all over the state coming to Asheville, North Carolina to teach our students the importance of exporting and the jobs that are out there for them. And for the first time ever, this will be done free of charge for those students. So this is something that's unprecedented. It's never been done. I have already been told by this organization, if this works, they'll do it across the state, continue to do it in our area, maybe even do some hybrid events where we can utilize Blue Ridge Community College or AB Tech satellite campuses and have a central location maybe at AB Tech and broadcast this event to those other locations so other students can do this. At the conclusion of this training session, it's a one-day training session for students, they will get a certificate that is recognized by every business in the export community. This actually comes from the U.S. Department of Commerce and the North Carolina District Export Council. So awesome things the youth committee is doing. Again, please read through it in the packet. If you have any questions, please email me. We really need your connections to these organizations and to get the word out, because the youth committee in 2022, we're coming on like a freight train. We're not going to be stopped. So kudos to my committee for making this happen, getting these things in motion, getting this work done. And we just need your help to get us to the finish line. So Dr. Pallas, I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Fantastic work, Jonathan. You and your committee there. Now, I know, again, I speak a little bit about Transylvania County and just some of the challenges we face with youth, and especially as we're trying to tie that into the vocational side. So I think that's going to be a great asset for all of us. So thank you again. All right, at this time, I'm going to recommend that rather than having the others read through their reports or go through their reports, that we just ask board members to read those, and if they have any particular questions, to take them up specifically with those committees. Nathan, is there anything that you would like to add at this point?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for any technical difficulties today. I know we went a little over, but that's my fault. But I hope the board members felt like it was a productive meeting. It's just incredible amount of information. So thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you, Nathan. And it's not uncommon to hear you apologize, so I don't think that it's really necessary, but we appreciate that anyway. All right, this time, if there are no questions from other members of the board, I'm willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Jonathan moves to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Michael Horvath seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any opposition? Hearing none, I will declare this meeting adjourned, and we look forward to seeing everybody perhaps live in May. Thank you, Nathan, for everything, and for the board staff for everything that they've done to get everything together here.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully we can have an in-person meeting in May. That's the plan. So we'll still allow you to participate remotely. Want to thank our board staff for all the work they've done. Barbara, Zia, Melissa, Mark, Brandon, everyone who's pitched in. Y'all have been great, and we really appreciate the support of our board. And thank you.
All right, thank you all.